new charge or warrant received a ticket or citation makes your first appearance. It's my job to advise you of your rights, the charge you face, and the maximum penalty you face if you're convicted. If we don't resolve your case today, I'll give you a new court date. Do a general advising first, and then we'll call groups up and take care of your cases one at a time. Please listen carefully to this information. It's for your benefit. I'll start by explaining your statutory and constitutional rights. If you're here for court today, even if it's just for a speeding ticket, it's considered a criminal matter. Every person charged with a criminal matter has the right to be represented by a lawyer. If you can afford to hire a lawyer, you can do so at any time while your case is pending. However, if you're charged with a crime that carries the possibility of actual or suspended jail or prison time, and you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, if you apply and qualify, I can appoint a lawyer for you. If I appoint a lawyer for you while the case is pending, you don't pay for the lawyer, they're paid for by the county. However, you need to know at the conclusion of your case, you could be required to repay the county for the cost of that lawyer over a period of time. Now, if you want to be represented by a lawyer, and you don't believe you can afford to hire one, and you want me to appoint one, you have to fill out an application. They're up at the railing here, those piles of white papers with the pencils. If you're filling one out, a couple things. Make sure you write legibly so we can read your handwriting, and fill it out completely. Fill in every single blank. If it doesn't pertain to you, just draw a line through it or put a 0, and make sure you sign it on the second page. If you don't know yet whether or not you want a lawyer and you want to wait and see what happens and then decide, or you want to take it home and bring it back later, you can do that. You can turn them in any time while your case is pending. However, since you're sitting here in court here today, today's the best time to do it because I can take a look at it and tell you whether or not you qualify for that court-appointed lawyer. You also have the right to a speedy and public trial here in Minnehaha County. If it's a fine-only type case like speeding ticket or traffic citation, you can get the right to a court trial where a judge would listen to the evidence and the judge would decide whether you're guilty or not guilty. If the charge has the possibility of jail or prison time associated with it, you have the right to a speedy and public jury trial here in Minnehaha County. That jury trial takes place in front of a fair and impartial jury made up of 12 residents of Minnehaha County. All 12 people would listen to the evidence and then decide your case unanimously whether you're guilty or not guilty. At your trial, you are presumed to be innocent unless and until the state proves your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. That means at your trial, if you have one, it's not up to you or your lawyer, if you do have a lawyer, to prove that you're innocent. It's always the state's burden to prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt of everything that you're charged with. At your trial, you have the right to confront and cross-examine any witnesses called to testify against you. You have to be allowed to be present in the courtroom, see and hear all the evidence, see and hear the witnesses, and then ask them questions. You also have the right to compulsory process. That means if you have witnesses you want to bring to court to help you put on a defense, you can do that. If you're afraid they won't come voluntarily, the court can issue a subpoena which requires them to come and testify even if they don't want to. And finally, you have the right against self-incrimination, also called the right to remain silent. While your case is pending, you don't have to say anything or admit anything about the facts or details of your case. At your trial, you don't have to testify. And if you chose to remain silent, the fact that you remain silent will not be used as or considered evidence against you. Now, the procedure we're going to follow today is when I call up your group, come on up to the microphone, stand in front of the microphone and speak loudly and clearly into it so we can hear you, and we're recording everything that's being said here in the courtroom today. I'll tell you what you're charged with, the maximum penalty you face if you're convicted. If you filled out the application for the court-appointed lawyer, I'll look at that, and if you qualify, I'll appoint a lawyer for you. If I do that, the bailiff is going to take you out the back door to the scheduling clerk. They're going to give you a couple of things. They'll give you your new court date, and they're also going to give you the information on how to get in touch with that lawyer. You need to make sure that you get in touch with the lawyer before your next hearing. You have to call them right away because they're busy, and the next hearing is only about 4 weeks away, and if you wait till the last minute, you're not going to get in to see your lawyer before your next court date. Also, if you do not talk to your lawyer before your next court date, make sure you come to court. It's not their case, it's your case, so don't miss court. If you miss court, you're gonna get a bench warrant issued for your arrest and you'll sit in jail until your case is over. So make sure that you're aware of when you're supposed to be in court. If you don't do an application for a court-appointed attorney, and in most cases, I'll ask you if you want to be represented. If you do, but you plan on hiring your own lawyer, or you've already hired a lawyer, but they just couldn't come to court today, or you don't want a lawyer and you want to represent yourself, at least now, and plead not guilty, and we'll give you that new court date. Again, in all those cases, the bailiff is going to take you to that scheduling clerk. You'll get that new date and you'll be free to go today. But make sure you come back to court on that new date so you don't get the bench warrant issued. If you're not asking for a lawyer, a new court date, and you want to resolve your case today by pleading guilty, if you're here on a misdemeanor, in most cases will allow you to do that. If that's what you want to do, is plead guilty and admit that you committed the offense and be sentenced. When I ask you, or when I bring you up and I ask you if you want to plead guilty, make sure that you tell me, yes, I want to plead guilty today, but keep in mind, if you plead guilty today, you give up all the rights I just explained to you. If you plead guilty, you give up that right to a lawyer, your right to a speedy and public trial here in Minnehaha County. You give up the right to confront and cross-examine any witnesses that the state would have called to testify against you, and you give up your right against self-incrimination, because if you plead guilty, it means you're admitting that you are guilty and you're admitting that you committed the offense that you pled to. So if you're thinking about pleading guilty today, keep in mind that if you do, you give up all of those rights. If you plead not guilty and you have a fine-only type case like a speeding ticket or traffic citation, you'll get a court trial. That'll be your only court date. That's when your trial takes place in front of the judge, so make sure you come back to court on that date with any witnesses that you have. If the charge has the possibility of suspended or actual jail time, then you'll get a pretrial hearing and a potential jury trial date. Pretrial hearing is a date when you come back to court by yourself, or if you have a lawyer, the lawyer will come also, and you'll sit down and talk to a prosecutor and you'll discuss the case, the facts and the evidence in your case to a certain extent, and a possible plea bargain before you decide whether or not you want to plead guilty. So if you're thinking about pleading guilty, but before you do, you want to have an idea of what your sentence might be or could be, or you want to discuss the facts and the details and the evidence in your case before you decide whether or not you want to plead guilty. Or if ultimately you have no intention of pleading guilty and you want to have a trial in your case, then plead not guilty today and we'll give you that pre-trial hearing and your jury trial date. Some of you are maybe here for no insurance tickets or failure to maintain financial responsibility. Those are class 2 misdemeanors. Punishable by up to 30 days in jail, a $500 fine. There is a mandatory suspension of your driving privileges for 30 days. If you plead guilty to no insurance and your license gets suspended, if you have a valid license today and valid insurance, I can give you a permit to drive to work, home from work, and while you're at work, and to school and home from school, and if you have children, to take your children to daycare or babysitter on your way to work. But you have to have a valid license and valid insurance in place before I can give you that permit. Also, if you're here for no insurance and you were in fact insured, but you just didn't have the proof on your phone or in your car, when you come up to the microphone, tell me right away, just say, I was insured, I just didn't have the proof with me. We'll take a look at that, and if you were in fact insured, those cases will be dismissed, but if you went out an hour or two later, or a day or two later and bought new insurance, don't tell me that you were insured, because those cases cannot be dismissed. Some cases are crimes of enhancement. DWIs and simple assaults by themselves are class 1 misdemeanors. But if you get 3 convictions for either one of those charges within a 10-year period of time, it becomes a class 6 felony. I'm not here to discuss the facts of your case. I can't dismiss your case. Only the state's attorney's office can do that. But remember, if you plead guilty, you waive all the rights that I previously mentioned, and you make yourself guilty.